I'm joined now by U.S. Congresswoman Jackie Speier, who sits on the House Oversight Committee. Congressman Ted Lieu sits on the House Judiciary Committee. Elliott Williams is a former Deputy Assistant Attorney General. And Robert Costa is a national security reporter and political reporter at the Washington Post. Let me go to Congressman Lieu about this thing. Talk about why you're going to a subpoena authorization tomorrow.
Thank you, Chris, for your question. It's been over 10 days since Robert Mueller completed his report, and Congress and American people still don't have it. So what is Attorney General Bill Barr hiding? We're going to authorize subpoenas to get the full report because we don't trust Bill Barr. Based on public reporting, Attorney General Barr did not want to eliminate health care, but he was buckling under pressure to Donald Trump, and now he is in court trying to eliminate pre-existing conditions. Who knows what else he's going to buckle onto under Donald Trump. We don't want him to make inappropriate redactions. That's why we're going to authorize a subpoena for the full report.
Do you think he's a dishonest AG?
I'm sorry, Chris, say that again?
Do you think he's dishonest? Because you're talking about a dishonest little twist of facts. If he's going to use the whatever redactions, whatever tricks he's up his sleeve, you're suggesting he's hiding the truth.
It's possible. It's been over 10 days, so we don't know why we don't have the report yet. In addition, he went way beyond what the special counsel statute actually said, the special counsel regulation. He did not have to write a 4-page memo that said that no obstruction of justice occurred. That is a decision that special counsel Mueller was supposed to have made. He did not. My view is Congress should be making that, not the Attorney General, because the whole point of the special counsel regulation is to not have people like a political appointee like Bill Barr make that decision.
Robert, let me talk about the politics with you, and you're a specialist in this and covering it. What is this about? Because it seems to me that the Attorney General has become, in the last week, really the man in the middle here. He's the one that decides. He decides so far what we know. He's the one that decides whether the president has been exonerated or not in terms of obstruction of justice. He said he's basically exonerated, even though Mueller didn't do that. He has a lot of power. Is he a political guy here, or is he a public servant? How would you break it out in terms of his perception right now?
The congressman laid it out. His perception is both one that's legal and political. But the way this situation's developing, based on my talks with Republican and Democratic sources, is that this may go to the courts, that the Attorney General may not give Congress sufficient information in the view of House Democrats. And this fight goes to federal court, perhaps all the way to the Supreme Court, if Congress does not feel they are getting enough information, but the Attorney General feels he's giving them enough and within the parameters of his own jurisdiction.
Well, Elliot, how would they decide this? How would they decide it? They got to look at, here's the whole report. It took 2 years. What that is, it always happens this time of night. The big question is, what do you do if you got an Attorney General and you put in there by Trump because you said the right things about his powers as president in the executive role, and he thinks you're going to look out for him?
Right. Someone who's...
You can't look like Roy Cohn, but maybe you want to look like Bobby Kennedy. But are you working for the president here? Or are you working for the public?
Well, we hope he's working for the public. Now, look, he came in under a bit of a cloud with that 18-page memorandum before he was appointed, where he laid out his views on obstruction of justice. Let's be clear. Congress is a party here. We're hearing from a couple members of Congress. And they vote, a partisan Congress voted 422-0 to see this, the findings report and its findings released in full to Congress. So Congress, as an entity who has the duty to oversee the executive branch.
So a lot of Republicans, in fact, almost all of them said, let's look at this.
Everyone who voted on it said, let's look at this and the underlying findings of the report as
well. So there's a difference between the Republican Party at large and the president here.
It's got to be, because
he doesn't want us to. He obviously is ready to dump on it, even if it gets out.
Right, if it gets out, he will spin it in a manner, no collusion, which is nonsense because it's not even a word in the federal criminal code. But he will spin it. But again, the members of Congress agreed and voted unanimously to get this information out. And so we as a public, and Congress as the body that oversees this, has a right to get to this information. So even though Barr has said that he will get the information out within 2 weeks, Congress is well within its authority to get it out now.
Congresswoman Jackie Speier, thank you for coming on. It seems to me the Democrats don't trust the Republicans, and I see why. On both accounts, your committee's account and the Judiciary Committee account. First of all, they don't trust Barr. They want to see the whole report, not his version of it. Number two, they don't trust the president passing out these top secret clearances to his family. It seems to me this nepotism has reached the limits where you trust Jared Kushner, who the FBI doesn't trust, to see everything. Everything, anything that goes on in U.S. foreign policy or concerns around the world, or our top secret jewels, he got his access to. Your thoughts?
Well, it's pretty remarkable that we are in a situation now where a whistleblower who has worked in the White House for 18 years under both Republican and Democratic administrations has come forward because she believes that she can't go up the chain of command anymore and have her reviews have the kind of clarity that they deserve. So she started making a list of 25 people who got security clearances, who were not cleared by the FBI, and she brought it to the Oversight Committee because she says that's our last hope. This is someone who is fearful for her job, who has already been retaliated against by having 2 weeks with no pay, because they see that as insubordination, because she keeps continuing to not recommend that certain individuals get security clearances that is consistent with the FBI, and then again her boss overturns it. So you've got that issue, and it's really kind of interesting in the Oversight Committee where they were wringing their hands about this, and yet just 2 years ago, just a year ago, they were subpoenaing all kinds of documents from Hillary Clinton, never even had the courtesy of telling the Democrats on the committee. We've actually had an open hearing about it today.
What do you suspect Jared and perhaps Ivanka have done wrong that got the FBI to say, no, don't let these people see top security materials? I mean, that's serious. But they know that she's the daughter of the president. They know that he's the son-in-law of the president. They know he's entrusted great power to these two people. And yet they say at the FBI, at the public servant level, don't trust them. What is it they have on these two people?
So you're declined a security clearance if you have a conflict of interest, if you have some financial interest with a foreign entity, whether you've had either a criminal act or bad behavior. Those are the circumstances under which a security clearance is not recommended. So we need to know what the FBI found, why they chose not to offer those security clearances, and then why the White House overturned that. We're a country of laws, and all of a sudden it seems that the president thinks that he doesn't have to comply with any of those laws, and that's fundamentally what the problem is.
We're just looking at stock footage there of the young couple there greeting Pete, who was Jeff Sessions, rather, who was dumped by the president. It's interesting how quickly history moves in this administration. Anyway, when it comes to Jared Kushner's security clearance, NBC News has reported that FBI and CIA background checks flagged concerns about his family's business, his foreign contacts, his foreign travel, and meetings he had during the campaign. However, in an interview on Fox last night, Kushner brushed off that allegation.
I can't comment for the White House's process, but what I can say is that over the last 2 years that I've been here, I've been accused of all different types of things, and all of those things have turned out to be false.
Do you pose a grave national security concern to the country, Jared Kushner?
Look, I can say that in the White House, I work with some phenomenal people, and I think over the last 2 years, the president's done a phenomenal job of identifying what are our national security priorities.
At no point during that interview was Kushner asked whether his father-in-law intervened to grant him his security clearance. Elliot, this is a problem.
It is.
The fact that the FBI is, I take them totally seriously. I've been through those background checks working not at the top security level, but to be a White House speechwriter for the president, you know, in the Peace Corps, I've been through a couple of those full fields. Something in that full field jumped at them.
Yeah, and I've been through the whole process twice, and then the sort of follow-up ones. Here's the thing. I think this isn't about Jared Kushner and whether he's a grave threat to national security. It's about the constant devaluing of the opinions of the national security community that we keep finding with this administration, and the lawyers, too.
Like when the president refuses to say the Russians screwed with our elections.
With Saudi Arabia, you know, the unwillingness to say that Saudi Arabia is a threat to the United States. And again, and pardons and on down. People who devote their careers to thinking about who's at risk and who's posing a threat just automatically get their opinion.
Well, here's a woman who has the nerve to bring this out to the public. Whistleblower Tricia Niebold, who worked for 18 years as a security specialist at the White House, explained why she's speaking out now in an exclusive interview with my colleague Peter Alexander on NBC Night News.
Why is this issue so important that you felt the need to speak out? the protection of national security is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. It's an American issue. And we as security professionals owe it to make all our recommendations in the best interest of national security.
Congressman Lieu, I want you to weigh in here as a political figure, a leader of the opposition party. What do you make of this president in terms of his respect for law, respect for national security, respect for the truth? Where would you put him in all those three categories?
I give him an F. And the whole conversation with Jared Kushner just highlights why we need the entire Mueller report. As Representative Spear knows, there's a whole range of conduct that may not rise to the level of a federal offense, but could constitute misconduct. So, for example, former Trump officials Scott Pruitt, Ryan Zieke, David Shokin, Tom Price, and many others were forced to resign, not because they necessarily violated any federal laws, but because they engaged in misconduct, such as conflicts of interest, abuse of power. We want to know if people like Jared Kushner or others engage in that kind of conduct, as well as the president.
Thank you so much, U.S. Congresswoman Jackie Spear, of course, Congressman Ted Lieu, both of California, Elliot Williams, and Robert Costa of the Washington Post.